what this is all about is it's trying to drive that wedge in between the American people. It's trying to divide us because we're easier to manipulate as a divided population. And it's all about power for the Democrats. They don't care about the country as a whole. What they care about is power, aggrandizement, and certainly Biden, what he cares about is the Benjamins, right? Making sure that his family has access to
Correct.
the corruption scheme that he's had going on for decades.
One of the biggest questions that we have right now is America's standing as the leader of the free world. Are we still that? Are we still the leader of the free world? Or are we in a crisis now? Is our nation and you and I facing a national security crisis and actually allowing our adversaries to have more power over us than we have ever seen in the past? Both our enemies and our allies, they no longer respect our ability to defend our interests around the world. We see that right now. We see it in Iraq. We see it in East Asia. We see what China is doing in South America. We are watching it all over the world, even our allies in the Middle East, especially Israel, has felt that neglect to the extreme. First, our leadership class destroyed our credibility as the moral compass of the world by being shaky in our resolve and failing to uphold our end of the deal. Then they gutted our weapon and ordnance stockpiles without a solid plan to replace it. Finally, they made it impossible to recruit brave young people to join the military. I know this personally. Who would want to enlist in an organization that looks down on them because of the color of their skin or their political persuasion? And by the way, who wants to serve in the military when the government has asked the FBI to keep a close eye on military veterans because they may be the enemy and not the Chinese or the Russians or the Iranians or the terrorists that may be living in our country because guess what? Our border has been wide open. How about that? What is left is basically a country with a weakened defense posture, leaving you and your children and your families at risk, leaving our allies looking for answers and our enemies looking for an opportunity to take advantage of us. And that is exactly what they are doing. I have someone who served with the DOD, with the Department of Defense on the show, a very high-level general who has served in many wars and battlefields overseas and has served under President Donald J. Trump. He is on the show with me today to break all of this down, and I'm so excited to share what he has to say with you. And he's going to give you those tools. He's a general, so he leads his men into battle to do what? To win. And that is what we are going to do. We are all the foot soldiers in America marching straight towards November. But first, Fast Growing Trees. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the United States with more than 10,000 different kinds of plants and over 2 million happy customers, including me in the US? You can grow lemon, avocado, olive, or fig trees and so much more inside your own house without having to worry about the changes of weather outside, especially in harsh winters. And on top of a wide variety of those plants, you also get a wide variety of house plants. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online, and your plants are shipped directly to your door with 1 or 2 days. That's it. 1 or 2 days you get them. And along with their 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee, they offer free plant consultation forever. Look, I go outside with my daughter, with my family. I spend a lot of time in my garden in the spring and in the summer. And I'm hoping to do that this year. It gives me a break from the craziness of politics and the news and all the other insanity that we face in this new woke world. But instead, you could be one with nature, right? You can be out there and at the same time, making your home look beautiful. The experts at Fast Growing Trees curate thousands of plants so you can find the perfect fit for your specific climate, location, and needs. That's what I did. Right now, they have the best deals online, up to half off on select plants. Plus, when you use code Carter, Carter at checkout. You save an additional 15%. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com. Be sure to use code Carter, Carter at checkout for additional 15% off. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Carter, Carter. Offer is valid for a limited time. Tell them we sent you. I want everybody to know who I have here because I think this is, first of all, I'm excited to read. I got this today in the mail. I'm so excited about your new book. I've got Brigadier General Anthony Tata. He served in the United States Army for 28 years. He's the recipient of the Army Distinguished Service Medal, Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Combat Action, Ranger Tab, so many other awards. Everybody loves this guy. And if they served for him, they got stuff done under General Tata. He was appointed as the official performing the duties of the Deputy Undersecretary of the Defense for Policy, reporting to the Acting Undersecretary of Defense for Policy by President Donald J. Trump. I'm expecting to see General Tata back at the Department of Defense with some scoops for me. Some scoops. That's all I'm saying, General. I'm not asking you for classified information.
You got it.
Just some scoops.
You got it. Yeah, some scoops.
Just some scoops. And by the way, let's talk about your new book just really quick, because it's going to go with everything that's happened during this election cycle. And I was so excited. I was reading it to my husband. We went out for lunch. I was sitting there going, man, this book is going to be great. I can't wait to get started on it. I may read it while I'm in Israel. This will be good. But it basically, you talk about, a kind of a takeover, a technocratic world where, these corporations, which is what's happening right now, have access into our most private lives through the use of technology, through our cell phones, through our computers, access to what we buy, how we live, when we go to bed, our health records. I mean, everything about us exists now out on the web. So that's a little hint about what we're going to talk about. So thank you very much, General, for being a part of this Sara Carter show.
Yeah, I'm so privileged to be here. I've been so looking forward to talking with you, Sarah. Think about the worst instincts of Google and Facebook and Meta and Instagram and how they want their digital carnivores. They want your information, yet they don't want you to have any freedom. They're predatory. And now think about that combined with the federal government, an autocratic federal government like we have in the Biden regime. And think just back a few years ago to some 30-year-old staffer sitting there eating a cheeseburger in the White House, calling up Twitter and saying, here are 25 accounts I don't like, deplatform them. Twitter says, another 30-year-old guy says, yeah, sure, no problem, deplatformed. That to me is so un-American and so scary. And that was the real impetus, the catalyst for Phalanx Code. I said, that's techno-fascism right there. That's technology companies, all-seeing, all-powerful, tricking us into giving them the information that they want, right? Ostensibly for advertising and, ease of use and all that. And then sharing that with the government and allowing the government to tell them what to do. And when you think of the groupthink and the narrative that's out there within the progressive left, all of that was ossifying together. And so in the Phalanx Code, there's the Phalanx Corporation that is that entity that I'm talking about against something called Project Optimus. And this was before Musk bought Twitter, but I was thinking very much along the lines of some tech titan that was interested in protecting individual liberties and freedoms, and he calls it Project Optimus, and he has developers and coders creating a decentralized Wi-Fi, decentralized finance, DeFi, DY. And it's an epic struggle between those two, with our hero, General Garrett Sinclair, co-opted to defend the little guy.
Kind of like General Elon Musk or General Anthony Tata.
Yeah. And so, but you have the Project Optimus CEO pulls Sinclair in to protect his coders and developers from the Phalanx Code, who has assassin squads. And the code is this supposedly a kill list of people that Phalanx wants to kill because talent is everything in this coding world, and they're killing key coders for the decentralized Wi-Fi and decentralized finance so that they can continue to just gobble up more digital data and make it one mega platform that's colluding with all these governments around the world and controlling. It's all about control and power, and that's what Phalanx is about. So think about today. We had Facebook, Google, everybody going down, and it's Super Tuesday. I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
I know, and nobody believes this. Not even Elon Musk believes it's just a coincidence. I mean, and
right,
this is,
exactly.
but this is the thing. We live in a world that is so vastly different. Then this is no longer science fiction. You're almost writing a book based on what could be an absolute truth, right? Techno-fascism. We've seen it. We've seen it with, companies like Coca-Cola and Budweiser and other companies where, if you didn't fit the, new woke agenda, the groupthink, then you were ostracized. I mean, it seemed like the American public ostracized Budweiser after they tried to push their woke agenda, on the American public in a social level. But we're really living in a different time. China does it right now, too. China has a credit system, and they're very serious about this credit system. You can't fly anywhere. You can't leave Beijing. If you don't have a certain number on your credit system, you can lose so many of your rights and privileges. Are you afraid that what you're writing, I mean, could actually happen here in America? I mean, we're at a precipice in time where we don't even know what's going to happen. I mean, come November, if we don't elect the right person into office, if we elect ideologues who want to shift and continue to shift, changing our country from the republic that it is into something quite different.
Yeah, Sarah, you're exactly right. We're at a real scary time in our country right now because you do have this progressive left Marxist ideology penetrating through what used to be our most trusted institutions in the military. You served your husband through your husband's service, and how important it is to be highly skilled, trained operator and to support that highly skilled, trained operator without the interference of some BS, PowerPoint slides you got to look at every month or whatever to check the box on critical race or DEI and all of that. And this narrative that is really imprisoning all of us is really, the Phalanx Code, that the general is in Fort Leavenworth disciplinary barracks. He's imprisoned there, and he breaks out. And that's the second chapter, so I want to talk about it. But in my mind, as I started writing this, I was thinking about breaking out of the narrative. So it's almost a metaphor. Sinclair breaking out of prison is almost a metaphor for breaking out. It is a metaphor for breaking out of the narrative. And what happens if you break out of the narrative? You're hunted, you're sniped, the people come after you, particularly if you have any kind of profile, right?
Well, that's what happened to you. Let's just stop right there, because very similarly, I mean, you were appointed under President Donald J. Trump. You came up against this very woke, agenda and these ideologues that did not want you there, and they were going to come after you. And Trump was like, yeah, no way. You know what? We're going to appoint you. What was that like? Because when you think of the military, I mean, this is a place, a sacred institution that is there to defend our nation against all enemies. And all of a sudden, it seems like the enemy is kind of from within.
Yeah. So, I was really honored. I was just minding my own business, doing a little bit of Fox News where I'd see you occasionally in the green room. Yeah. And I got a call from presidential personnel. Hey, the boss, first offer was to become an ambassador. And then they very quickly changed me over to undersecretary for policy. And I was so honored and humbled. I met with the president in the Oval Office and Secretary Esper, Robert O'Brien, and great conversation. He's such a gentleman. He is nothing like this caricature out there. But as my nomination leaked and then became official, there was the same people supporting Hamas. There was this quasi-religious, Christians for Progress or whatever, I forget their name. They circulated this thing that ended up having hundreds of thousands of signatures, and they're all the radical leftists that support Hamas, and they're the same. It's an intersecting group. It's all one thing, and they were emailing Democrat senators' office, and so when I started engaging with these people, and I'd said a couple of crazy things out there on Twitter during a particularly tough time of my life, but I said, look, I've got a distinguished military career. I served in combat several times. I went on to serve in public school systems to help our underserved youth. Particularly in D.C. public schools and Raleigh, Wake County. I served as Secretary of Transportation in North Carolina. I've run businesses. So who better to serve as our policy guy than a guy who's been in combat, that ran joint experimentation, was in charge of plans for the 82nd Airborne Division. All of my career prepared me for that job. So just looking at the qualifications of an individual to be in that job, and you know me, I have a lot of humility about me, but I would say that it would be challenging to find someone on paper as qualified as me for that position. And the static that I got, and part of it was, it was 6 months until the election. And by the time my hearing rolled around, it was like 3 months till the election. And so it's just the long knives were out, and people were worried and concerned. And so Inhofe, from Oklahoma, where I am now, he called and said, "Look, we're gonna delay your hearing because right now there's just a lot of people taking shots at you." I said, "That's fine, Senator. Look, I just want to serve." He said, I told the president to, put you in the position and we'll move forward and get you confirmed next when he's reelected. And of course, the rest is history there. But I got to serve in that job for 4 months or so, and but
do you feel that everything is weaponized? Because I wanted to talk to you because we could not. I think as a nation, we have faced like the worst that we can imagine. Our nation has been divided. We couldn't move forward with a lot of the appointments under President Trump because of the battles within Washington, D.C. They delayed appointments. It was insane how much these appointments were delayed. Not just you, but even during his first term, people were just not being appointed. President Trump, every time he turned his head, somebody wasn't getting appointed. And it was just one mess after another, and they wouldn't go through the hearings. So I was surprised he got as much done as he did. And now we can see the same thing happening again.
Well, Sarah, I mean, think about it. They being the progressive left, and not even progressive, the left, they did everything humanly possible to prevent him from accomplishing his mission. They put so many headwinds against him, and yet he accomplished more than anybody in recent history anyway. And when you think about what they're doing to him now, it's very similar to what they did to him in office. They're throwing every weapon they've got at him, and they threw every weapon and these people on the left are not people that love this country. They are people that love their ideology, as you referenced earlier. They love what they believe in, not this country. And they fundamentally want to change this country to something that is unrecognizable to people like you and me and 80 plus million Americans out there, because I can't even describe to you as I go around, whether, it was Afghanistan. I had soldiers calling me up crying, saying, "Sir, was it all, in vain?" And that I'd served with there. And then you look at what happened in Ukraine. It's almost like they wanted Ukraine to happen because nobody was trying to talk Zelensky out of it. And then Israel, the intelligence myths that we had there, we had a responsibility there. What's happening on the border? We don't know. I mean,
well, this
honestly,
is what I wanted to go to. Yes, you hit all the points. Let's start out with this. Israel intelligence myths. Okay, Mossad missed it. I was in Israel 2 months before. I was on the border with IDF. I walked all along those from the border of Lebanon, from the very north, all the way down to the Sinai. I was with Tom Homan and some others, and we were with the Israeli Defense Forces. It looked as if they had a very fortified border with a lot of technology. And now we look back and a lot of complacency, a lot of like, oh, we've got everything taken care of because we got all this technology. And they weren't expecting an outside of the box thinking of the type of attack that Hamas and Iran initiated. But we also failed, General Tata. We failed. We have a CIA that is supposed to be like, either they knew about it or they didn't, or everybody missed the boat here. But we missed the boat, and now our border's wide open. And I have been beating the drums for 20 years about how terror organizations are working with and have a nexus, with these cartels because of their connections through drug money. They can access some of these transit routes into the United States. So are we missing? What's going on? Why are we leaving the border wide open? Does our intelligence community believe it's so safe that we just got to leave it open?
No, I mean, they gotta have somebody that can sign all these fake ballots they're going to send in November. Right. So, I say that half joking, but the thread for me is really bad intelligence myths on the Taliban in Afghanistan. Really bad intelligence myths in Ukraine. Remember, Sarah, Blinken and Biden offered Zelensky a ride out on the eve of the invasion because all of the intelligence was that it was going to be 72 to 96 hours and it would be over. And Blinken Zelensky famously said, "I don't need a ride, I need ammo." And think about that for a second. If Trump had ordered
Zelensky said that. Zelensky said that.
Zelensky said, "I don't need a ride. I need ammo."
Right.
I'll give you a different way to phrase that. Biden and Blinken offered to Putin to decapitate the Ukrainian government on the eve of the invasion, because that's what that was, and that's what the headline would read if Trump were in charge and had done that. And so the media completely washed over that. Right. And then, then Zelensky rallied his people, his troops, the world to defend against the Russians. And, whatever you think of that whole situation, then we miss Israel, Hamas. And we have, I can't go too much into it, but we have a role there. Right. And we miss that. And now, so I bring all that to bear. All those three big misses, the one that hasn't manifested yet, those three have manifested, is the border. If our intelligence is that bad about the three most significant geopolitical events in the last 3 years, what are we missing at the border? How bad is it? And where is it going to manifest? Because that's the real thing that worries me. Whether it's in the Washington, D.C. area or somewhere else, these people are not serious people, whether it's Mayorkas or Austin or Blinken or Biden. They're just not serious about their duty to execute their office with the best interests of the American people in mind. They have another agenda, and they're implementing that agenda, which is the DEI, critical race theory, agendas. I was on a different podcast the other night, and we were talking about, there was some transgender colonel or something from Space Force talking about how using your pronouns increases combat readiness. And I'm like, how you increase combat readiness is you take your troops on training exercises in the Mojave Desert until they puke, and they do it again and they do it again and they do it again until they know what they're doing. Then you take them to combat and they come back alive. That's how you increase combat readiness. All this other stuff is irrelevant.
Right, because when you're in a battlefield, just like if I'm on the front lines with our troops covering a story like I did many times in Afghanistan or even on the border of Pakistan or in Iraq, what you want is somebody that is ready to do what is necessary, somebody that you want in a foxhole with. You want someone who's going to fight back, who's not going to be afraid, who isn't going to complain about their shoes or their pronouns or anything else, who isn't going to run away from the fight, but go into the fight. And what I feel we've done is we've created this kind of it's like a shadow military that is like a shadow military that is not about fighting or winning wars. It's about pushing an ideology. And do we really want to be in a foxhole with these guys or gals? Right? I mean, I don't care if you're gay. If you're gay and you're in the foxhole next to me, we're going to fight. Let's fight. But if you're going to sit there and tell me what pronouns I have to use.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've always said if somebody wants to raise their right hand and serve the country, more power to them. Everybody counts or nobody counts. So let them come in. I don't care what you want to dress like. I don't care who you love or like to be with. Whatever. At the end of the day, just don't bug me with that stuff. I don't need to be made to feel stupid or guilty or whatever. I've served in DC public schools where I tried to help our most underserved population. Same in Wake County, North Carolina. I know who I am. I'm authentically me, and I love everybody. And I want them to all be as successful as possible. And I think generally, usually most people are like that. And so what this is all about is it's trying to drive that wedge in between the American people. It's trying to divide us because we're easier to manipulate as a divided population. And it's all about power for the Democrats. They don't care about the country as a whole. What they care about is power, aggrandizement, and certainly Biden, what he cares about is the Benjamins, right? Making sure that his family has access to the corruption scheme that he's had going on for decades.
This administration wants you taxed to the brink under the thumb of the IRS and controlled with a digital dollar. That's why thousands of hardworking American patriots, including myself, are turning to Goldco. Listen to the current offer. Get a free 2024 Gold Kit and learn how to possibly get $10,000 in bonus silver as a listener of the show. They've helped people like you and me place over $3.5 billion in gold and silver. And folks, in this type of economy with inflation out of control and you know who in office, we really need to diversify our money. And that means gold and silver. Protect your family's financial future and freedom. Get started today at Sara, S-A-R-A, likesgold.com. That is Sara, S-A-R-A, likesgold.com. Get your free gold kit from Goldco and learn how to get $10,000 in bonus silver. Sara, likesgold.com. That's Sara, S-A-R-A, likesgold.com. Right now, in a conversation with National Review, I'm going to ask you this. Mitch McConnell signaled that the United States won't be able to replenish our ordnance stocks if the U.S. doesn't pass bills for more aid to Ukraine. I mean, that's kind of insane. I mean, I don't even understand. Like, if we can't replenish our ordnance stocks, but we're sending a lot of weaponry to Ukraine, I mean, we're not prepared. And I was talking to folks over at Heritage Foundation, and it's been this way for a while. We can't really fight a two-front war like we're required in the military as well right now. I mean, we've been stretched so thin. Our enemies are watching us divide amongst each other here in America. I think the Chinese and Russians are salivating over that, and Iran as well. And we have a weakened military, and we're sending a lot of our resources. Granted, we have a proxy war going on with Russia right now, but it goes both ways. Russia could be saying, you know what? I'm going to keep on fighting this war so that America keeps on sending its stuff over to Ukraine.
Well,
Right?
I mean, that's very astute observation. I'm sure that they talked to Iran before, October, and so I think as we look at what's happening, for example, we can't meet our recruiting goals. So what does this administration do? Instead of um, not forcing woke ideology down everybody's throat and not trying to figure out what the real problem is, they just lower the bar.
Right.
All right. Instead of, we're
let's just say
restructure the army by 25,000 troops.
Well, and I want to make it clear so people understand this, General, and then I'll let you continue. But the Army and Navy failed to hit even 80% of their recruiting goals in the last quarter of 2023. Need I say more?
Right. So what do we need to think about? This is an election year. When do you announce your recruiting accomplishments? In September, the end of the fiscal year. What has this administration done? They've reduced the Army's size, and while we're fighting a war in Ukraine, while we have a war raging throughout the Middle East, while we have China breathing down Taiwan's neck, they've reduced the size of the Army by 25,000 troops, which is roughly equivalent to the deficit that they've had. And so come October, they're going to make recruiting goals, and they're going to say, we fixed the Army and we've met our recruiting goals. And it's all about power. It's all about retention. It's all about having that talking point. What are you talking about? We met our recruiting goal. And in the quiet of the night in January, they make this decision to reduce the size of the Army. It is craven, power-hungry political politics that we're playing with national security, and it's tantamount to what's happened at the border. It is just the same calculus. Let them come in. Let's make sure we can say we hit recruiting at the end of the year, the end of the fiscal year, right before the election. I promise you that it'll be a talking point in the debates if they happen, or in the media. Army meets recruiting goal, problem solved, and morale is up. Whatever they need to make up, and we know all that's just fiction. But in today's world, I mean, that kind of stuff sometimes works, and that's the scary part.
Well, and I think what's really frightening, and you brought this up because we're talking about our border, right? We're talking about those security failures. And right now, and I've spent a lot of time talking to Todd Bensman. I've spent a lot of time in Central America, in Mexico, on the border, a good portion of my career. And what we're seeing is almost treasonous in a way. I mean, it's a dereliction of duty. It's a
in a big way,
flat out lies to the American people. And explain that to Laken Riley and all the other Laken Rileys out there, and all the other people that have been harmed by fentanyl or have lost their lives. I was just on the phone yesterday with Virginia Krager, as a mother who lost her daughter to fentanyl poisoning. Her daughter was given a Percocet that was laced with fentanyl, or almost purely fentanyl. It killed her instantly. And now she's almost losing her son, 3 of her kids. So 2 of 3 children. Her son is in a comatose state in a hospital right now because he was so despondent after losing his sister that he never was able to really recover from that. And so she said, Sarah, my entire life snowballed into a pseudo hell after my daughter took one pill. And now I meet families all over the country who are going through what I'm going through, over 100,000. Sir, what China has done with its precursor chemicals, using Mexican cartels as proxies to enter poison into our country, what we are seeing happening in the United States, I mean, this is a war against us, but we haven't woken up to realize it yet.
Yeah, no, and you've done excellent reporting down there at the border and around the world on all of these critical topics, and I always appreciate listening to you describe firsthand, because you're not one of these people that reads Twitter and they say, okay, here's what's going on. You actually go there, like you're going to Israel soon. And so the authenticity that you bring to this conversation is very, very real and important. And so what is happening at the border? It's happening. We're receiving multi-level attacks from all of our adversaries, whether it's China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea, the four listed adversaries in the National Defense Strategy, and the incompetence in our federal government right now, whose sole purpose, honestly, is to defend and protect U.S. property and people and interests abroad. They're failing in every sense of the word because what they believe, what this progressive ideology, and I know Lloyd Austin well. I mean, I was a battalion commander for him in the 82nd. I was a deputy commandant general for him in the 10th Mountain Division. I was direct report to him twice, and he's somewhat of a political windsock, and so he's been told to promulgate these ideologies, and so he is. Whether he believes them or not, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, he's a good man. He served. He was in combat. And like I said, everybody counts or nobody counts. But what he's doing right now with DOD and making people choke down these ideologies is impacting the readiness. And the same thing with Homeland Security, Mayorkas and the Border Patrol and all of that. They are doing a disservice to the men and women who have chosen to protect and defend this country. And at the state municipal level, you got the same thing with police forces. Who in their right mind would join a police force today? Who in their right mind, honestly, would join the military today, unless they found some niche thing or they subscribe to this ideology? And that's why we're seeing this recruiting deficit. It's because America's sons and daughters and mothers and fathers are saying, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want these decision makers in charge of the life or death of my son or daughter. I ran major school systems, and parents always voted with the feet of their children, and that's what's happening in this country. Whether the school was good, that the children would go. If the school was bad or they had bad leadership, they'd find another place for their kid. That's the most precious resource we have in this country, and for parents at a 25% declining rate to say, I trust the military with my children, is a story that nobody's talking about except for very few people like you. And it's an enormous story because it shows the erosion of confidence in what used to be the most revered institution, a political institution in this country.
You just said that so well. And it's so heartbreaking because almost everybody in my family has served this nation. All the men in my family. My father was a Marine. My grandfather served in the Army in World War I, believe it or not. My father, World War II, as well as Korea. My husband served in almost every battle. My brother served in the Army. And and I'm so proud of all of them. And
you are proud. You're rightfully proud.
But I'm
so
disappointed. So disappointed.
Right.
My husband said, if I had a choice now, if I was a 17-year-old right now, the way that I was when I joined the military, I would not do it. I would not serve under this military. And that's a sad state of affairs. I wanted to ask you this because I just have a couple more questions, then we'll go back to your book before we wrap this up. I know I've taken so much of your time, but the conflict in the Middle East is putting American forces at risk. We've been watching this. Many have been injured, at least 3 killed in attacks from Iranian proxies and also straight up Iranian missiles. What is the best way to deter those attacks? And why isn't Biden saying why are we at war? Why are we not saying it? Why are we still there? Why are we not handling Iran? I mean, I'm guessing they still want to hand that olive branch and try to pass that JCPOA. Who cares how many Americans die? We're going to get a nuke deal if we get back into office again in 2024, God help us. But what is going on there?
Yeah, so Sarah, you everything you said is very, very spot on. I think I've thought deeply about this, and I really believe that either Biden or Obama or both, Iran must be compromised in some way because there is no logical um, there's no logic to what's happening. The the solution to all of this is um, renew our energy independence. Everything that Biden shut down 3 years ago, let's get energy independent again. President Trump has a plan for that. Reduce our reliance on the Middle East, pull our troops out of there. Why? I mean, why are they over there catching javelins in the chest, right? I mean, and unless they have a mission, if there's a mission, I don't know what the mission is. Presumably, prevent the resurgence of ISIS. Let's get them out of there and let that region evolve naturally within its own habitat there, making sure that we just focus on protecting Israel and maintaining relations with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and the other nations that we have relations with. Or don't do those things, and or you could do those things. And if Iran doesn't quit, we have the capability to play. Iran's playing a game with us. Let's play a game. You want to play a game? Let's play a game. We can fly our stealth bombers at certain altitudes that are not at risk from surface to air missiles, and we can drop some very precision guided stuff on oil fields and nuclear capability reactors and that kind of thing. And let's start with one and say, okay, what do you think now? You want to talk? You want to stop exporting terrorism throughout the Arabian Peninsula? No? Okay, let's do another, and then another, and then another, and torque up the pressure on them the way they're torquing it up on us. Why are we just getting slapped in the face every single day until we lose troops? And
and we've spent decades upon decades of dealing with a cult-like regime instead of just ripping the Band-Aid off and saying, we're not going to deal with you anymore. By the way, Saudi Arabia doesn't like you. Nobody really likes you. They're just putting up with you. And your people don't even like you. So I don't think we'd have that much opposition to just ripping that damn Band-Aid off and resolving this crisis, but we do this I don't know what the word is, tiptoeing around everything. And then we allow the bad guys to go, oh yeah, well, this is good. Cause while they're tiptoeing around, I'm loading up my pockets. Right. And then I can pass all these. I say we just do it. We got to get people into office that are strong, that carry a big stick, and they're willing to use it. Don't have to use it, but I'll carry the stick and I mean it. Right. And I believe in that.
Yep.
I believe in that. And I've seen what Biden's failed policy has led us to. And God help us, because I'm going to bring it right back to your book. If we don't get out there and vote, if we do not do our due diligence, I'm not telling people how to vote. Everybody's going to vote their conscience. But if we do what's right, and every single person, every Republican gets out there, every independent, and says, no way, we are not going to put President Biden back in office. I'm saying just get out there and vote. But if we don't, we could end up with a world very much like this.
The Phalanx Code is really about that, right? It's about the digital carnivores out there that are trying to control your life.
And they are out there, and they are out there, and they
are out there.
They have used algorithms. They have used algorithms to minimize my voice. I know that. I know that because it's been documented. And we know that they did that at Twitter. We know that they did that at Facebook. And they basically shut our voice down. That's a violation of our First Amendment rights.
Yeah, even on Amazon, my book started, this book, Phalanx Code, was in the top, it was like 900 of all books being bought in the country, which, that's pretty good. And it was number one across a lot of subcategories. And then all of a sudden, like, certain versions of it aren't showing up on Amazon. And they know I'm a conservative author. And, I just kind of power through all that stuff. But the manipulation is there. And that the Phalanx Code is all about, it was born out of this when that guy in the White House was trying to deplatform people at Twitter, and the guy in Twitter said, "Yeah, cool, yeah, let's do it, let's get rid of these guys." And I thought about that collusion between big government and big tech is not good for the country, the world, but it certainly is good for the people that want to maintain power. And you think about Zuckerberg putting $20 billion into progressive voting and advertising and all that. But that's really, really bad when you've got somebody trying to tip the scale, put their thumb on the scale like that. And so it's really about the epic struggle that the Joe Sixpack, people like me, like you, that are just trying to scratch out a living and live our lives and love our families and have our friends and in backyard barbecues and all of that. And how that is so threatened today, that normalcy of American life is so threatened by big tech and big government. And the federal government, our framers never intended to be this powerful. It was always about the tension between states' rights or the well-regulated militias and the federal government. They put maintain an army for a reason or maintain a navy for a reason and raise an army. They wanted a permanent navy to project commerce and power globally, but they didn't want a big army because they were watching all the land wars in Europe with Napoleon. And so raise that army, scale it as you need it. And they were afraid of that jackboot landing on their neck, and as it is today.
And now we have that boot on our neck. Everybody get out there. Please buy this book. It's General Anthony Tata. It is a brand new book. It's called The Phalanx Code. It is a Garrett Sinclair novel. This series has gotten amazing reviews. I'm just so honored to have you on the show today. I can't wait. We still have not done that dinner though. It's still in the back of my mind that we have to do this dinner. We've been planning on it a while. We get my husband, you get your wife. We're all going to go out to dinner. We're going to have a great night. So I'm holding you to that. I know you're on your book tour. Where are you at right now? In Oklahoma?
Oklahoma City.
You're not too far from me. I'm in Texas. So
I was just in Fort Cavazos yesterday.
Well, when you come back to Texas, you have a place to stay right here. You need to do that book tour here, Austin, San Antonio, or New Braunfels. Come to New Braunfels because we're very, very conservative here. So I want you to get over here.
I accept that invitation.
Okay. Hey, General, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.
You too, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General Tata. I can't wait to have you back on the show. Please make sure you are subscribed to the Sarah Carter Show on your favorite podcast app. It helps us keep the show free and really gives us a boost in the algorithm. If you're watching on Rumble or on YouTube, give us a like and a follow as well. Thank you so much. Follow me on Truth at Sarah Carter Official, on X at Sarah Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. But remember, X is where you want to be. God bless you. God bless our great nation, and God bless the great state of Texas.